Recording in progress. Okay, so each week, almost every week for the last 15 weeks on Wednesdays at 12:15, we've been going through the Mike Ferry 21-point sales system. So we've gone through 15 points. So now we are on point 16, which is practicing scripts and developing skills. Now, before everyone tunes out because of scripts and skills, stick with me here, because there's going to be some things that you've heard before, but there might be something that you've never heard before that kind of resonates, or there might be something that's a good reminder. So stick with me here, even though this is not a very exciting topic, practicing scripts and developing skills. Okay, so we'll get through this. We'll make it fun as possible. Before I get started, though, I'm kind of harping on this a little bit, and now you all do what you want to do. But I really think one of the valuable things of Zoom is if you put where you work after your name. Okay, so you could see, Alex has Irvine, Sasha's Southern California, Andrea's Glendora, right? Sam, Chino, Ontario, Ray, Disneyland, things like that. If you scroll over your box on Zoom, there should be 3 dots. If you click those 3 dots and then hit rename, you'll be able to rename whatever you want your name to be, and then put the cities you work after that. Because sometimes we're prospecting and we run into somebody that is looking to move somewhere else, and you could get a referral fee. And some of you live near, but some of you don't. Alexis lives in New York. So, you have a client looking in New York. Wouldn't it be nice to have an agent that you could say, oh yeah, there's just someone does that. Miguel, works out of the areas. Patty's in San Fernando, so we have people all over the area. Just a little thing.
I just learned something new on Zoom today.
Woo!
Robert, I want to let you know I'm clicking on the 3 dots and there's no new rename there. It says record, chat, invite, participant. Is that correct?
That's interesting. I have rename on yours.
Oh, really? Why don't I see it then?
What do you want this? Do you want all New York or specific areas?
Just New York City would be good.
New York City.
Yes, thank you, Robert.
There you go. I've been trying, at the end of the year, one of the things I always try to think about, I promise we're going to get to practicing scripts and developing skills. I promise we're going to get there. Okay. But I always, at the end of every year, I always think about okay, what is some stuff I learned and what can I improve on? And obviously we're doing everything on Zoom, which I think is really cool. But I was like, how can I make Zoom even better? And one of the things I thought of was this is, we can get more interaction with people on Zoom. And maybe if we see where people work, that's a way that we can do that. Because I get requests all the time. Robert, I need an agent in this place, this place, this place. So, sometimes it's nice if we know where everybody works already. All right, very good. Good stuff. Okay, practicing scripts, developing skills. Let's dive into this. These are not written in any particular order of importance. This is how they're written. You decide what's important for you. But let's dive into this. Point 16 of the Mike Ferry sales system. So Mike likes to say the 2 most important rules in selling are, number 1, asking good questions of the people that you are talking to. The 2 most important rules in selling are, number 1, asking good questions of the people that you are talking to. And number 2, listening carefully to the answers. And then he always says, how good are you at both of these? 2 most important rules in selling are, number 1, asking good questions of the people that you are talking to. And number 2, listening carefully to the answers. How good are you at both of these? And be honest with yourself. How good are you at asking good questions? The scripts are designed to ask questions, yes or no, right? Are all the scripts designed around asking questions? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's the key, though. asking questions is great, but look at what Mike says in one of the most important rules of selling is asking good questions. There is a difference between good questions that lead you to a sale, questions just to fill the time. The scripts are designed for good questions that lead you to a sale. When you don't know the scripts, you are more guaranteed, because you're obviously good at your job, so you can come up with good questions. But if you don't know the scripts, you are more likely to come up with questions just to fill the time rather than questions that lead you to a sale. And when that runs into the situation, that makes everything take longer. And the longer a conversation goes, the longer a presentation goes, the smaller chance you have at getting a sale. Write that down. The longer a conversation goes, or the longer a presentation goes, the smaller chance you have at getting a sale. Now, that for some people, that may not seem like a lot of sense. Well, Robert, no, I mean, it takes time to build rapport and things like that. So the longer it goes, the better relationship I have with them, the better chance I can get a sale. I got to tell you, that's probably not the case. There are more listings taken between 15 and 30 minutes than there are between 30 minutes and There are more listings taken between 15 and 30 minutes than there are between 30 minutes and an hour. Not talking about the paperwork, talking about the presentation. Because I understand doing paperwork and stuff can take a while. So the scripts allow you to ask the good questions that lead to a sale, but they also allow you to listen carefully to the answers. Why does knowing the scripts allow you to listen carefully to the answers? Why does knowing the script allow you to listen to the answers?
You don't have to worry about what to say next.
There it is. You don't have to worry about what to say next. You don't have to raise your hand, but be honest with yourself. Have you ever been in a situation so worried about what to say next, paying attention to anything else? All right. You don't have to raise your hand, but you can be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And it could be in a sales presentation, could be in anything, right?
I think the script is very good at just getting the question out, but it's the conversation, the dialogue in between those questions is what the key is going to get you anywhere
100%.
with the conversation or not.
You are 100% correct. And if you know the scripts, to Chris's point, you can have the conversation. If you don't know the script, you might ask the question, they say something that's really valuable, but you're thinking about the next question. Okay. You're thinking about, what to say next because you don't want to screw it up. So understand that those are the two most important rules in selling. Ask yourself, how good are you at both of these? And then we'll go from there. Now, some of listening carefully has nothing to do with the scripts. If we're being honest with ourselves, some of listening carefully is simply either ego or lack of versatility. So you have to make sure you're figuring this out. Okay. I say ego. Some people don't listen carefully because of ego, because it's only about what they want to say. You know anybody like that? Swear to God, if anyone says me, I'm going to be really upset. Just kidding. You probably know somebody like that. They don't listen carefully because they only want to talk about themselves. Here's a great example of that. You go on vacation and you tell someone, yeah, we went on vacation. They go, oh, where'd you go? Oh, we went to Belize. And instead of them saying, wow, what'd you do? They went, oh my gosh, I've been to Belize before. Let me tell you about my trip. They're not listening carefully because it's the ego or lack of versatility. What I mean by lack of versatility is if you're an expressive, listening carefully doesn't come naturally. You just want to talk. And if you don't have versatility, then you're not going to listen carefully. So this is part of developing skills. There's the scripts and skills. The scripts allow you to listen carefully because you don't have to worry about what to say next. Developing skills is stuff like letting your ego go and then developing versatility so you can listen carefully. They all go together. All right. Next point I wrote down here, practice revolves around two issues. Number one, the amount of time you spend daily. And number two, the intensity of the time you're spending. Practice revolves around two issues, the amount of time you spend daily and the intensity of the time you're spending. How well do you do with these two? Okay, same type of question. So how much time are you spending working on your scripts and developing skills? Here's a really important thought. The lack of time practicing is not a time problem. It's a lack of value problem. The amount of time you spend practicing script, the lack of time you spend practicing is not a time problem. It's a lack of value problem. What I mean by that is everybody can spend 30 minutes to an hour working on their scripts. If we're being honest, and I know we don't like being honest around here sometimes, you could spend 2 hours a day. If we're being honest, you could. If you into days where it's like, oh, I practice today, I don't have 30 minutes to spare. It's not a time problem. You just don't see the value of practicing scripts, which is very common. Okay. So it's not a personal thing. It's not you're going down the wrong path. It's very common. They just don't see the value. So don't make the excuse that it's a time thing, that you can't practice more. Here's how I know it's not a time thing. Tony Smith. Tony Smith, for those of you that know, is Mike Ferry, longtime Mike Ferry coach, speaker, agent, and he's now the vice president of the Mike Ferry organization. Okay. And this is a guy in Apple Valley that for many years was doing 100 to 200 deals a year. Okay. For the first 5 years of his career, he practiced 2 hours a day. He would practice scripts and objection handlers 1 hour in the morning, and he would practice the listing presentation 1 hour in the afternoon. Now, at this point, 5 years into his career, he was doing 40, 50 deals a year. Okay. So he wasn't at the 100, 200 yet, but he was still doing 40, 50. It's a lot of deals. And he was still finding time to do 2 hours of practice a day and still be married and still have kids and still have a life. It's time management, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. Or you just don't see the value. So it's like, I'd rather not. Okay. And then, but the other part of here is the intensity of the time you're spending. I want everyone to write down what I'm going to say next, underline it, highlight it, because if you get nothing else out of today, what I'm about to say next, I think is the most important point of today. Now, I hate saying this right now because you tune me out the rest of the time, but this is the most important point I'm about to say, in my opinion. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. See, we have to understand that just practicing the scripts is not good enough. It's the intensity of which you're practicing, the intensity of which you're role playing and doing all these activities. So let me give you an example. I hear sometimes, when I bounce around to the rooms at 8 a.m., right? Or I used to hear this when we would be in the office doing this. There would be people that would role play like this. Okay, ring, ring. Yep. Hey, my name is Robert. I'm with Century 21. We just listed a property over at 123 Main Street. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And I'm just curious who would like to move into the area. You're just going through the motions of saying the script. That's not going to get you any better. Now, I understand there's no adrenaline rush as if it's a real person, but you have to treat it as much as possible, right? So it's got to be ring, ring. True story. I was role playing with Neil and Mike one time years ago. We were role playing and and there was another agent in the role play group, and the other agent, they spent, this is a true story, they spent 10 minutes on the ring with him. Because the agent would go, okay, ring, and they would say, no, come on, ring, no. They would do, I'm not kidding, 10 minutes on just the ring, because they were trying to get across to them, like, this is, you have intensity. Make sure your practice is as intense and real as possible. Okay, that's what's going to make you better. Now, I don't want to confuse that with the role play partner making the practice hell for the person doing the role playing. Okay, that's not what I mean. I'm not meaning the intensity of where you're the role play partner and you're just making it super difficult, a pain in the ass for the person role playing. You can be difficult at times to give objections. I'm talking about just the energy, the enthusiasm, the asking the questions, the moving forward. That's the key. That's the key. Okay. So make sure that you're doing that, and don't be afraid to call out your role play partner in a nice way if you feel like they're not giving it to you, because the role play partner has to be reciprocating at a high level as well. I mean, you're role playing with somebody, you're intense, and the role play partner is on their phone while they're role playing. They're not giving you the same level of intensity. Now, let me ask you a question. If your role play partner is not really focused, does that hurt your role playing? Yes, no?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So,
Yes.
so your role play partner has to reciprocate that. And so don't be afraid to call them out and say, hey, come on. And if they don't want to participate that way, that's fine. There's 1.3 million people with a real estate license. Somebody else is willing to role play with you at a high level. And if you ever need help finding a role play partner, let me know and I'll point you in the right direction. Okay. So that is the most important point. Okay. Make sure poor practice, no matter how much you do of it, will not make you any better. I would also recommend on that point that when you're doing a role play, like on the pre-qualify, take out a pre-qualifying script and write out the answers. Or if you don't need the script right in front of you, take out a notepad and actually write out the answers. Tell me where you're moving to. Oh, okay, you're moving to San Clemente. Great. How soon do you have to be there? The same way you would if you were actually talking to somebody. This is how we get better. This is how we get better. All right, I wrote down here next, create a practice plan for yourself. Create a practice plan. So for an example of that is say, you know what, this week I'm doing the for sale by owner script, and I'm going to, here's my plan. I want to role play it. And then I'm also going to write it out, once or twice, or I'm going to write it out every day this week. And I'm also going to role play it. Next week I'm doing the expired, this objection handler. Next week I'm doing this. Like, create a plan for yourself. So it's not always just random practicing. Now we do that in the morning. Okay. We're practicing a lot of different scripts in the morning. We do that to keep people engaged. But when you're doing something separate for yourself, is pick a specific script or something like that you can work on. That's why Mike always says he issues the challenge every year is write out the listing presentation every day for 30 days. We tell you this all the time on the listing presentation, that you should spend 30 minutes a day either on a live listing presentation or role playing your listing presentation. But pick something and really go tackle that one. Okay. But create a plan for yourself, but role play the scripts that you typically are going to work. You'll notice in the mornings, like for those of you that join us in the morning, there's scripts we don't really work on. Like, we don't ever give the script of, well, we've never heard of you. You're not going to get that, really. Okay. Unless you work for some really, really obscure company, which none of you do. Right. Or you're from way out of the area. So we don't practice those. We practice typically, but we practice different variations. Well, list high, but today we did the box in into the list high. How much do you charge? Scripts that you're going to use. Okay. If you're not going to call for sale by owners, don't work on a for sale by owner script. If you're not going to call expires, don't work on the expired script. All right. Very good. All right. I wrote down here next, your practice time should be on your schedule, just like prospecting and lead follow-up. If it's not on the schedule, it will not happen. Okay. Ideally, try to get it done before prospecting. Why do you think we want you to get it done before prospecting? It's two reasons. Why do you think? Why do you think we say try to get it done before prospecting?
Because you're going to be in a rhythm.
You're going to be in a rhythm. That's right. Number one, you're going to be in a rhythm. Typically, when you go to a basketball game, they don't do warm-ups after the game. For those of you that have ever been to a basketball game, they usually don't take batting practice after the game. They usually take batting practice, do the layup line, basketball, stuff like that before the game. Get in a rhythm, as Sam say. Why would there's another reason why we would suggest doing it before you're prospecting in the morning? What do you think that might be?
It warms you up. It prepares you. It just energizes you.
Right.
It gives you the mindset.
Yep. 100%. 100%. There's one other reason.
When you have the most energy?
When you have the most energy, also very good, right? It's close to that point. What Alicia said, the most
It won't
energy.
get done if you don't do it first.
There it is. You don't do it in the morning before you're prospecting, the chances of it getting done are not very good. It's not a shot at you. Don't be offended. That's everybody, myself included. I don't want to role play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Be honest with you, I don't. Hopefully I'm on an appointment or a showing or, doing something else. I don't want to role play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I would do it if I had to. But in the morning, you get the role play in, boom, it's done. Remember this line. Master 8 to 12 in the afternoon will take care of itself. 8 to 12 in the afternoon will take care of itself. What do I mean by master 8 to 12? You have to do your role playing. You have to do your prospecting, your lead follow-up, do a quick little market stat, like Neil always says, quick little CMA in the area. Master 8 to 12 in the afternoon will take care of itself. Okay. All correct. Good stuff. All right. I wrote down here next, find 4 to 5 role play partners and change them if they become negative or drain your energy. Find 4 to 5 role play partners and change them if they become negative or drain your energy. Now, the beauty of our role play group at 8 a.m., for those of you that don't join, it's on this Zoom at 8 a.m., is that you always have a role play partner. And typically you role play with somebody else on most days. There's some days where we don't do it on purpose. It just somehow you might get partnered up with the same one a couple days a week or something like that. But typically you have a different role play partner most days, right? And you do that, one, because that way you always have a role play partner. But two is that you want to hear what other people have, how they say it. Maybe there's a different cadence. Maybe they add an extra little line here. Abigail does that. Abigail's got a great line on the your office is not close to our home. When she says, you're right, my office is not close. My office is not next to your home or around my other listings. Why is that important to you? So it's like a little extra line that somebody might say. So find 4 to 5 different people to do that. But if they become negative or drain your energy, move on from them. It's not a personal thing, but you have to get better at it. Okay. All right. Mike Ferry, role play rules. Yes, there are rules. Show up on time for your role play appointment. Pretty simple, right? Show up on time. Number 2, eliminate small talk, complaining, or whining. This is role play time. This is not discussion time. This is not, oh, let me tell you about my day yesterday. Let me tell you about this. You have a small window for role play. Eliminate the small talk. Let's just get into the role play. Number 3, stay on the scripts. Stay on the scripts. And if your role play partner is getting off the script, help them get back on. Not in a mean way. Just say, hey, come on, get back on. Get back on the script. Okay. Now, you have to decide, for those of you that role play outside of the group, which a lot of you do, you have to decide on whenever you run into somebody who wants to role play a script that's outside of your script, on are you going to allow that, or would it be time for them to move on? It would be a point. Somebody says, you know what, I want to role play the For Sale by Owner script, but I don't like the Mike Ferry script. I got this script from whatever, so-and-so on YouTube. I want to role play this one. Could not be a big deal. Like, all right, you role play yours, I'll role play mine. It's not a big deal as long as that we're all, in this together. Or you might say, you know what, I want to stick to people that are using the same scripts as me. You have to figure that out for yourself. Okay. Give honest feedback to each other. Again, not mean, not rude, honest. And always eliminate. And then the last rule of role play is always end with a win. Always end with a win. Now, again, you can be, depending on the level of role play you're doing, ask your role play partner the level of objections, for example, the level of difficulty you want to be. Don't just assume that they want you to throw 4 or 5 objections at them, because they might not be ready for that many objections, number one, and then you make them feel bad. Or number two, they might just be a specific thing. I do this with, used to do this with Nancy Dupre a lot, where we would get to the point, I haven't done this with her in a while, but we used to role play all the time. She still role plays, but just not with me. Where she would say, hey, look, today I just want to work on this. So I wouldn't give her 4 or 5 different objections. She just wanted one particular objection to get that over and, get that one going. So make sure with a win. Don't end the call with a hang up, or I guess, really, you're not ready to sell. You don't know anyone. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Have a good day. Don't do that. Like, end with a win. Get them the appointment. Get them the referral. Something. Get enough negativity. Get enough negativity when you're prospecting live. You can't end your role play negative. God damn it! I'm already getting my ass kicked. Like, help me somewhere. All right, I wrote down here next. Record, record, record. Record, record, record. We talk about recording your prospecting all the time, but I would also say record your practice, your role play, especially your listing presentation, video recording. The role playing the scripts, if you can get the audio, that's fine. When you're role playing the listing presentation, get the video, because it's not just about the script, it's body language. Okay. At least once a week, record your role playing, record your listing presentation, watch it yourself, send it to your coach, send it to your accountability partner, whatever the case may be, give it honest feedback. I do watch them and I do give honest feedback for those of you that send me your recordings. Okay. Good and bad. Some of you don't do that. You're like, oh, I don't want to see myself on camera. Let me tell you something. This is what I never understood about real estate agents. Oh God, I don't want to see myself on camera. Okay. You do understand that when you go on a listing presentation, they see you in person. So if you don't like the way you look on camera, that means the person on your listing presentation doesn't like the way you look in person. Okay, so you're so worried about I don't like the way I look on camera. Like you have to meet people where they have to see you. So get over the I don't look good on camera thing. It makes no sense to me. Record your listing presentation, videotape it, send it into an accountability partner, send it into your coach so they can watch and give us honest feedback. Makes no sense to me. You have an in-person job and you don't want to do it because you don't like the way you look. I just never understood that. That just makes no sense. Anyways, record, record, record. That's how we get better. How we get better. All right, a couple more points here. I wrote down here. Remember that our growth is determined by our willingness to practice. And our confidence comes from that practice. Remember that our growth is determined by our willingness to practice, And our confidence comes from that practice. Customers and prospects want confident people. Knowledge equals confidence. Ignorance equals what? Sure, you've heard it. Knowledge equals confidence. Ignorance equals what?
Fear.
Fear. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it, so I won't go do it. Or I'm not super confident. So you're going into the presentation or you're going into the prospecting a little hesitant. I'm making the calls, but there's a little holdback. And let me tell you something. In sales, in prospecting, the difference between the non-producer and the $500,000 producer is not this much, it's this much. I'm telling you. It's that much. It's that little itty bit that when they're prospecting, they're fully confident, whereas you're prospecting and you're going through it, you're making the calls, but you're a little held back, just a little. That little bit is what prevents you from 0 to 500, 0 to 50, 0 to 100, depending on where you are in your business, right? Not, okay. It's that little bit. It's not a lot. Linda Holmes made a great point to me one day. Linda Holmes and I were having lunch. Linda Holmes is one of our agents, makes anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million a year. She's also a Mike Ferry coach. We were having a coaching conversation, her and I, at lunch a couple of years ago. We were talking about, what we were doing, helping the agents coach and stuff like that. She was going over her roster. I was going over my roster. And we were talking about doing, door knocking, just listed, just solds and things like that. And one of the things she said was, she goes, it's all about the scripts. And I said, well, why do you say that? And she said, because of the confidence. And she said, let me tell you something, Robert, I guarantee you the people that are doing the work, even though they're doing the activities, if I door knocked the same houses that they're door knocking, I would end up with 4 or 5 more leads than they would, even though I'm door knocking the same house. And she said, because I know the script so well, I'm super confident in what I'm saying, I would find more leads door knocking the same homes. And I believe her. It's not this, it's this. And it's that little confidence that if you don't know the scripts, if you don't have the skills, you don't have that confidence. And I'm telling you, it's that much. You may not believe me, and that's fine, but I'm telling you, it's that much. You might think that the difference between the Linda Holmes and you is, well, it's astronomical. No. I'm telling you, it's the little stuff. It's the little stuff. You have to remember something, okay? This is, for some of you, you're not going to care about what I say next. For some of you, this is going to help. The only time that the difference between a non-producer and a Linda Holmes is astronomical is if there's a legit disability in the person at 0. Here's what I mean, okay? If you have a mouth that talks, feet that walk, and a hand that knocks, you have the basics. You have the basics. You have the basics down. That's the hard stuff. A mouth that talks, feet that walk, and a hand that knocks. If you have those 3 things, you have the basics down. Now, the difference between the 0 and the Linda Holmes is now just the little stuff after that. Part of that is the confidence in knowing what to say and how to say it. I hope that helped somebody. All right, I wrote down here next. Remember, there's always room for improvement, no matter how good we are or how big our numbers are. Remember, there's always room for improvement, no matter how good we are or how big our numbers are. I know I tend to make a lot of examples, to tell a lot of stories when I'm doing these classes, and I apologize for some of you that don't like that. But I want to stop on this point right here, and then we'll end up with the the last point. There's always room for improvement on how good we are, how big our numbers are. So 2 stories I want to share with you to kind of get you on this thought process. And I'm sure you've heard these before. So there's a gentleman in San Luis Obispo named Hal Swayze. Some of you know who Hal Swayze is, because if you've been to any sort of Mike Ferry event, he's always one of the people on stage. He's also been on our masterminds and things like that. Maybe you've had a chance to talk to him, so on and so forth. Okay. So Hal Swayze and I have a relationship. I've actually done some coaching and training for his team. He asked me to do that for him a couple years ago. So we have a really good relationship. So years ago, we were at a Mike Ferry event, and Mike always asked the question at the event, who's the best listing agent you know? And you're supposed to, right? Because if you don't think you're the best listing agent, then you're never going to get any listings. Well, I don't actively go out and take listings. So I said Hal Swayze. I think Hal Swayze is the best listing agent I know. So I go up to Hal afterwards. I said, hey, I want to let you know that when Mike asked the best listing agent we know, I said you. And I kid you not, there's a true story. No nonsense, nothing. He just looked at me and said, well, Robert, it's just practice. And I said, yeah. 30 years in the business. You've been doing 200 deals for 20 years, millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure you're really practicing a lot. I said it sarcastically. And he said 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Still does his listing presentation. 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, practicing his listing presentation. Doing 150 to 200 deals a year. Actually, I apologize. He recently slowed down the last couple of years to where he's only doing 125. And he's building his team to where they can do the rest. 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And this is every time Mike Ferry does a live listing presentation on stage, he always asks Hal Swayze to do it because he knows how good he is at it. So if he's doing it, we should be doing it as well. There's always room for improvement. The last one I'll share with you is Karen Bernardi. So Karen Bernardi, in my mind, is the Mike Ferry of real estate. Okay. Now I say Mike Ferry of real estate because in her career, she's made now at this point, because a few years ago it was 60, now $65 million income, not volume. She's made $65 million in commission. That's pretty good. So I had the pleasure of sitting right next to her a few years ago at the production retreat. And I asked her, I said, Karen, why do you keep coming to these events? You've been in business 30 years. You obviously, with all the money you've made, it's not about the money. You clearly know how to sell real estate. Why do you take, 4 or 5 days off to come from Colorado to Nevada for some time here? And she said, if I'm not around this group of people and I'm not constantly working to get better, my business will tank. That's what she told me. That's what she told me. So again, you have to think of this. Removing the ego on practicing scripts and developing skills is there's always room for improvement no matter how good we are or how big our numbers are. Because if Karen Bernardi and Hal Swayze have the mentality that I have to keep getting better, I have to keep improving at this stage in their career, then damn it, we should too. And sometimes, and I'm just as guilty. Okay, this is we're all in the same boat together here. Oh, Robert, I've been doing just listed calls for 25 years. I got the script. Practice the script. I've been with Mike Ferry for 30 years. It's the same listing presentation. I know it. Practice the listing presentation. Okay. LeBron James has been playing basketball for 35 years. He practices every day. It's something that you keep doing. And if you don't think there's always room for improvement, then it's that magical 3-letter word, ego. And as Mike would say, don't allow your ego to take over and control your ability to practice. And then the last point I wrote down here is we always perform at the level of our practice. We always perform at the level of our practice. Questions on anything I went over today?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
So regarding the practicing of script, obviously you do it before you make the call. For listing presentation script, when do you recommend that we practice every day?
If you can do it in the morning, which means you just have to expand your role play in the morning, do it. If not, then I would recommend doing it right after lunch.
After lunch. Okay, thank you.
And I say that because, again, the later it goes, the harder to sit down and do a fake presentation. Not to say it's impossible, but it's harder to do. You know, it's either want to do it because, you know, you can go home, you can go do whatever it is you may be, especially for someone who lives in New York City, right? Plenty of other stuff to do, then practice a fake presentation. Or for a lot of people here in Southern California, a lot of other things you can do than practice a fake presentation. So if you're not going to do it in the morning, I would say right after lunch, get it in, kick off the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? All right. Very good. All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate